Hey folks, sorry I'm late. So we're on the final workshop of the three that we've been doing, where we're focusing on what you're going to do in 2022. And I've got a way of planning your year out, which is significantly different than possibly most people tend to think about doing these things. And it's based upon, hang on a minute, I've got sound coming out here. There we go. And it's based upon the idea of experimenting. So let me show you what I mean. So the endless experiment engine. So what is it? It's a revolutionary, I would say, way to have the best year of your life. Where, I mean, you can split it up in a lot of different ways, but here's a way I would suggest it, doing it, is that you run 3 experiments a month. So that's 36 experiments in total. And there'll be 1 experiment in each of the areas that we talk about here in Make Music Your Life, which is music, obviously, money, which is not just about money itself, but the business side, the tribe building, the attracting fans, the administration, all of that kind of stuff. That's what is under the umbrella of money. And then finally, the third experiment that you would run each month is in mindset. So what mindset means is pretty much everything that isn't in the other 2. So, but really it's things like time, what people call management, although you can't manage your time. You can only manage yourself. So time management, the way that you focus, your broader life, that all of that stuff. That's the mindset thing. You know, what you believe about yourself, kind of goal setting. The stuff we're doing today, in fact, would fit into mindset. This exercise that we're going to do today fits in mindset. And my suggestion is that you run one experiment in each of these areas every month of next year. So you've got 36 experiments. And you'll start the experiments on the first day of the month. You'll report on your experiments on the penultimate day of the month, and you'll design the new experiments on the final day of the month. So you have a day off every month. How about that? I mean, obviously you can have weekends and things, but I actually find daily is easier than non-daily in terms of making music. Now, the reason for doing it like this is that what you're actually doing when you're running these experiments is you are testing solutions to actual problems that are standing between you and what you want. Because the traditional way of kind of planning out a year would be to think, well, I want to have the best year of 2022. So what do I want to do? Now, that's a great first step. So what do I want to do? Like what are the goals that I want to hit? So we create these goals, and that's what we've been doing in the previous 2 workshops. Links in the description if you've missed them. So those are that's what we've been doing. But in actually doing it, I don't believe that trying to hit goals is necessarily the best way. On an ongoing basis, you use the goal to decide which direction to go in, but then you use the endless experiment engine to actually move forward. Because the trouble is with the goal is it doesn't exist, whereas a problem that you need to solve in order to hit that goal does exist, right? And why is that important? Well, if you're constantly focusing on what doesn't exist, if you get massively overwhelmed, you feel like you've got too many things to do, you get burnt out all the time, it's because you're focusing on goals and you're focusing on solutions. And on a lot of the time, they will be random solutions. It's just like, I'll try this, I'll try that, I'll try the other. I had a coaching session with a client yesterday, and this was about in his music, and he's a mixing and mastering engineer, and he was finding that this, he's trying to finish a piece of music of his own, which is often very different from finishing someone else's piece of music as a mixing and mastering engineer. And he was trying stuff and it wasn't working. And the reason was he hadn't articulated the problem. He was just trying stuff. And the same is true in your life. By actually taking this, okay, what are the problems that are standing between me and my goal? So we have used the goal in order to define what the problems are, okay? And then you have these problems, and then you make an experiment. Say, well, I think if I do this, then this will happen, okay? So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to take you through the process of designing an experiment. It's very simple. It's not hard, so don't worry. But before we do that, why don't we do a bit of positive focus? And why don't you let me know in the chat, what's the best thing that's happened this week? Now, I know there's a lot of challenging stuff going on in the world right now, so that it's even more important to focus on something good that's happened this week. So type in the chat something great that's happened this week. Maybe something great musical that's happened this week. Doesn't have to be, though. It could be something personal, something in your work. Type that in the chat. As I find the button that I need to push to move on to the next slide. Ah, there it is. It's right in front of my face. Okay. Oh, Brian. That's awesome. First, and I'll make sure not to ban Brian. I don't want to ban Brian. I want to add his thing to... where do I do that? Oh, no, missed it. This one. Got my first follow on Bandcamp. Boom. Communion. Finishing up a mix for a Christmas song to drop soon. Fabulous. Super Monday, another songwriting bootcamp confirmed for the end of March. Brilliant. Thinking about doing a Make Music Your Life Bandcamp in summer, because next year, did you know that it's 10 years of Make Music Your Life next year? Depending on how you slice it and dice it, depending on whether you go on the accounting, when I actually came up with the name for the accounting, or when I actually started this business proper. But yeah, if it's the latter, it's 10 years in 2022. How about that? How many businesses survive for 10 years? Not so many, eh? New EP completed and Christmas tree finally decorated. Great, yeah. Well, in this house, that happens relatively early because of my 4 little boys. Brilliant. Nandala had a dream about Thundercat last night. Oh, brilliant. I love Thundercat. Excellent. Oh, Tom, son of a preacher. Big one. My first ever label release came out today. Congratulations, big. Hit the like button for Tom. And also for me, of course. Excellent. So, let's go with this. So, one of the things I've realized this year is that the best way to improve your music fast is to learn how to articulate the problems in the music clearly. Okay, so in your like right now, do this, and don't do it in the chat. Do it yourself, and I'll get you to post in the chat when it's time. But in your music, think about what's the big problem. So when I say big problem, think about it as being wide, broad, overarching, and an overarching problem that, when solved, could either reduce, simplify, or make irrelevant the other problems. And I'm going to give you an example. I don't always give examples, but in this case, I'm going to give you an example in my own music so you know what I'm talking about. But before I do that, if you want to be an artist, okay, and make the craft serve the music rather than be a craftist and allow the craft to eclipse the music, yeah, which is what I would, I think, fairly say the majority of people who make music at the moment do that. Yes, I am saying that. I think all we need to do is listen. I mean, even successful artists are actually craftists or craftists. I think not all, of course, not all, but the majority. And I, by the way, count myself in that bracket as well. I have only recently had this massive. Oh my! I see the world. Oh, I now understand so much of what I didn't understand before. So in my previous career, I think that was the biggest struggle that I had, is that there was some part of me that wanted to make art and I was being sucked into the craft constantly. So anyway, if you want to be an artist, and there's nothing wrong with being a craftist, nothing wrong with it at all. But if you want to be an artist and you want the craft to serve the music and not be eclipsed by it, then make it a problem focused on the art. So the ideas, like what you're doing, the kind of music you're making, and less, or maybe not at all, at this point anyway, for this question, on the setup, the technical problems, that kind of stuff. Yeah, the technical issues. Think about the actual what it is, rather than how you do it. At this point, we're going to come to the how you do it in a second. Okay, so what's the big problem? And when solved, could reduce, simplify, or make irrelevant, or all of them, ideally, the other problems. So I did some thinking around this, and I came up with two big problems. Number one, my music sounds too much like what is already out there. Okay. And number two, my music is always floaty, lovely, samey. So it's too static. Okay, it doesn't move from one state to another. I actually had this insight from giving my mastery program members. I gave them an exercise and did it myself. I always do that. And I did it myself and had this big, I know what the problem is. It's like it's very static and it just stays in one place. So I'm going to choose that problem, okay? Because I think that's actually the problem that may well solve the my music sounds too much like what is already out there problem. Okay, so my music is too always floaty, lovely, samey is an example of a problem. So right now you come up with a problem 2 and post them in the chat. Kraftwerk were artists. Okay. Probably believing Dermot. I think that's how you say the your Irish name, and apologies if it isn't. I'm pretty sure it is. And I'm not going to try and do an Irish accent because that would be very rude. So anyways, probably believing I'm kidding myself, that is worth my while committing to being an artist. So I'm not quite sure about the phrasing. I don't know what you mean, but it's something about belief. Right, for this one, for this particular exercise, let's focus on a problem in the music. So that's a mindset. That sounds like a mindset problem, Dermot, rather than anything else. Okay? But yeah, so think about something in your actual music. Yeah. Communion. My music doesn't have that modern sound of today. Okay, that's a good one. Excellent. Oh, Scottish. Apologies. Oh no. I feel terrible now. At least I didn't say you were English, right? That would have been really bad. Super El Mundo. My sound still not good enough too. Okay, so my sound isn't good enough. That's a very vague problem. What's the the thing to think about now is, what is it that is not good enough about your music? So, and not finishing and finishing in general, that is going to be a problem that comes out of the fact that you don't know what's not, well, you haven't defined what's not good enough about it. Okay? And if you want to be an artist, focus on the notes, Mozart, the notes, yeah, rather than the, the compression ratios are out, or whatever it might be. Okay? So my music lacks parts that develop. Okay, great. Something to think about there, Stephen. So parts that develop is a solution. So what is it that that solution would solve? Yeah. So what's the problem that that solution would solve? Okay. Parts that develop is a solution. Yeah. And I know this is like, yeah, sometimes, but it's going to be really helpful for you to actually identify the problem. Okay. That's a good one. Sometimes my music sounds like Steven Seagal's hairpiece. I didn't know that Steven Seagal had a hairpiece. I thought it was real. Is it maybe? Anyway, so yeah, if you could define that more specifically, that would be great. I love it though. I don't have a specific genre. That's a solution. What is the problem that solution would solve? Okay, so this is presumably you want to be a craftist, Goth, if that's the biggest problem. So bottom end needs more oomph in mixes. That's definitely a craft thing. So that's fine. If you want to be a craftist, then that's good. Jonah, not finishing and releasing enough music. Okay. I would say it's fine. You can use that one. I would say that's probably more of a. By the way, can you tell me? Am I peaking a bit in my microphone? Could you just tell me in the chat? I just want to make sure. But anyway, so Jonah, that's kind of a mindset one in a way, but that's fine. Go through it with this because knowing what I know about you, you're a mastery member, and knowing what I know about you, I think that's probably a good one to take a look at. Okay, this is a great one, Ivan. Costals, my arrangements and parts are too predictable. Sections are too similar. Awesome. Similar to mine, in fact. All right, so we're getting the idea. Moving on to the next one. Daniel says, by the way, I'm a beginner. It's fine. Like, the beginner is all good. It's a great time to focus on all of these things. Yeah. When I was a beginner, I released music. That's why actually I finished and released music. It sounded terrible. Anyway, so next. Oh, can you see that? I'll tell you what it says. Sorry, I meant to make that black and it's come out white. So what it says is we're going to do a 5-minute thought-nado. So what a thought-nado is basically a brainstorm. I've just come up with a new name for it. Okay, because I think the name Thought-nado is much cooler than the word brainstorm. So we're going to do a Thought-nado. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I haven't set up, because I ran out of time, I haven't set up my timer. So I'm just going to have to tell you. I'm going to give you 5 minutes on a piece of paper to Thought-nado possible solutions which might solve the problem. Okay? And by the way, with Goth, your problem, that might not be a big enough problem. It's very, very, very specific and very small. I mean, it's fairly easy to solve that problem. So that was the other thing that you might want to think about. So possible solution. So it wants to be a wide, overarching problem. Yeah, my music doesn't do this. Sort of broad thing. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to brainstorm possible solutions which might solve the problem on a piece of paper and not the chat. And just to give you, I'm going to give you examples this time to make it clear for you. So in this case, sometimes you will be talking about setup and technical stuff because these are now solutions to a problem. Okay, so here's the ones that I brainstormed beforehand. Here's one I made earlier, as they used to say in one of my favorite TV shows as a kid, Blue Peter. So actually, it wasn't one of my favorite TV shows. It was always one of those shows that I thought I should watch. Anyway, so model cycles. Use model cycles and map Tube, which is a plugin that I put it through, to MIDI to create heavy beats. Another option is focus on defam filth. See how crazy I can make it, which with the defam is pretty darn crazy. Combine those two things, this is another solution, to make something properly weird and filthy. As you can see, I was just brainstorming here. Another option is use another sound as well as the piano in the stuff I'm playing. Another option is start playing more percussive elements and looping them using the looper. Another option I came up with was use my voice as percussive elements or sound effect elements using the looper. And then another about the notes was use much darker chord progressions with augmented fourths and things like that. So there you can see I very quickly tornadoed. I mean, I did it in under 5 minutes, but I probably would have come up with a lot more if I did 5 minutes, but I ran out of time. So I came up with 6 options there. All right. Now that's the kind of thing you're doing. Now you don't need to know. You don't need to know whether these things are going to work. You're just tornadoing possible solutions. Yeah, and the point of the endless experiment engine is you're going to test them. So it doesn't matter. So it's like, well, I don't know. The reason you don't know is because you think you have to get it right. You don't in this model. You don't in this way of doing things. You just have to come up with things you think might work. Yeah, and these have to be things that you can do, not look something up on YouTube. That's not a possible solution. Yeah, it's something that you can do in your process. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do that. And I'll just walk around here. So 5 minutes, and I'll be back shortly. Oh. Hello. Okay. Phew. Had a bit of a loop back crashing moment. Yes, you can stop. And so Supramondo says, "Oh my, augmented fourths. Don't know what that is. Where are they? Augmented fourths. Don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Where's the? Oh, here we are. Too many windows, Mozart. Okay, so augmented fourths. Don't know what that is. I can tell you what it is right now. All right, one note on the keyboard. Count up. 6 notes up, like 6, like including the black notes. That is an augmented fourth. And did you know at one point in history, the church banned that interval because people thought it was the devil, the diablos in musica. So yeah, it was actually a banned interval for the things. So if you want to make dark things, use that interval. Yeah, I mean, there's other ways as well, but that's one of the ways. So there you go, little bit of music theory for you there. Yeah, and of course it's not true. That was just a myth. I also read that recently too, but I'm gonna use it anyway. And the myth is that it was banned. It was frowned upon. Put it that way. Okay. So, oh no, I love augmented force, Laura. How dare you? Augmented force is one of my favourite chords, or maybe I'm just like some kind of evil person. Who knows? But they're great. Yeah. Anyway, kind of like that. So, moving on. Here we go. Zooming about as we do. So now you're going to design an experiment. You're going to design an experiment to test. Design a simple experiment to test one or more of the solutions. Now, it can be hard. It can be a little hard to do this if you've not done it before. But the structure of it wants to be: if I X, then I believe it will Y. Okay? So, I will give you an example of the things that I chose. So out of the 6 things that I wrote down, here's what I chose. And I'm actually going to do this. If I use the model cycles and DFAM together and map the tube plugin that I use to MIDI to create heavy, weird beats, and contrast this with the floaty piano delay reverbs, then I believe it will create a bigger impact by moving the listener from one state to another. Shall we say moving the listener from the problem state to the progress state? Okay. So that is it's the first step of the experiment. We're going to do another step. So if I use the model cycles in DFAM to so if I X, Y, and Z, then I believe that this will happen. Okay. So right now, think of a test and type what you come up with in the chat. Okay. The great thing about taking this approach to getting what you want is that you never fail, right? Because what you're creating here is essentially a hypothesis. You're creating a hypothesis which can be disproved. So you can say, then I believe it will, yeah, is, I mean, I know this, I haven't actually looked up whether this is the right way to do science, okay, but we're just kind of taking a general model and we're saying, okay, I reckon this will happen. But if it doesn't happen, because it's an experiment, it doesn't actually matter because you've got some data from that test, okay? So type in the chat your experiments. Ricardo, yes. Ding! The augmented fourth is the tritone. Yes, the lean approach. I got really into Scrum at one point. I'm not a software developer, but I got really into Scrum. And the automatic music machine is highly influenced by the way that people develop software and teams develop software. I even signed up for Atlassian before it bought Trello. Did what did I use? Whatever one of the things is in Atlassian, just to run my life. And it was amazing. So, yeah. So type in the chat your experiments. If I do X, then I believe it will Y. So I'm going to see if I can do this. There it is. Okay. Okay. Any experiments that anybody has? So that I can feedback on the experiments you're doing? Let's see if I can go in front. Laura, we're both evil. Great. Okay, so Prod Bear, you haven't got the then I believe it will. Hum a melody over my instrumentals, then write lyrics that fit the hum that I recorded. Then I believe it will what? Okay, you have to define what you expect will happen. All right, does that make sense? So this is really important. Otherwise, it just becomes another bunch of solutions. So, for instance, in mine, then I believe it will create a bigger impact by moving the listener from one state to another. Okay? So it's really important that you define your then I believe it will. Your why. Yeah? Then I believe it will. Why? Yeah? Julien, if I make a precise analysis of the kind of melodies I like, then I believe it will help me understand what I can do to improve mine. Okay. So this is a good one, but what I want you to do for this particular, the music, because we're focusing on the music, is talk about what you're going to do in your music. Because what you're doing there, I mean, it's a great thing to do. I'm definitely not saying don't do it. But what you're doing is, are you talking about kind of learning something from there? It would be better for this one if you do it about something that you can actually do without having that information. So what could you try without having the information that will bring you? Although do that too. Yeah. Jonah, if I give each instrument specific... Yeah, you don't need to start with it, I believe, by the way, Jonah. I believe, but if I give each instrument specific 8th or 16th notes, I can play in a 2-bar phrase. I believe it will force me to create more coherent piece, where each has its own space. Ding! Great one, Jonah. Love it. Kian, if I establish what the type of track is before arranging it, I believe it will make my arrangements more flowy. Awesome. Okay, so Laura, this is a good one. Very, definitely a good one. But you're, again, I recommend also doing this with a thing that you can do in your actual music creation for the music section, right? But it's a good one. If I listen to new artists instead of the same ones, I think it might trigger me to be more creative in my writing. Right, brilliant. So yes, but if you could also make one for what you're going to do in the studio, that would be fantastic. Fantastic. if I do one wish splurge a day, I'm not sure what that is, but sounds fun, that only has one instrument, my parts will develop. Then I believe my parts will develop. Yeah, I mean, I would recommend, the reason I've put then I believe it will, Stephen, and I think you'll be all right because I know you and I think you'll be all right with this, but just the reason I've put then I believe it will in there is that it's a way of reminding yourself that this is a test and not an expectation. Yeah? Because when you turn something into an expectation, then you start going, oh no, it didn't work. Not you specifically, but you do internally. You're like, oh no, I've failed. Yeah. So it's like you're just trying something. Yeah. Okay. Robin, if I practice intensively on manually syncing every day, then I believe it will be easier to get a stable loop quickly. Brilliant. I like that one. A problem. Brian, lacks organic feel. Okay. If I play more parts with MIDI controllers or live instruments, then I believe it will have a more organic feel to the music. Nice one. Ivan, if I play the opposite game, that's one of the games that we play in Make Music Live, every day on a bookmark project, and whenever I'm stuck on a track with a lack of contrast between sections, then I will believe it will make my music more exciting. All right, you're getting this. Fantastic. Well done, everybody. Right, so the next part is very important. And this is a part which we often forget. All right. What we are doing now is we're going to set the terms of the experiment. Hang on, I've lost something here. Hang on, what we're going to... Where's my Prezi gone? Where's my Prezi? Oh, here. Yes. So reviewing... Oh, I see. No. Hey, no, that's not working either. Oh, well, anyway. Reviewing is as important... Oh, I know what I've got to do. Here we are. This is what happens when you run out of time. All right, there you go. No. No. Mike. There we go. Yay. I'm in front. I'm behind. How about that? Anyway, so gets very excited about these silly things. Anyway, moving forward. Reviewing is as important as doing, right? It's not an experiment if you don't set a point at which you say, okay, I've now run this test and here are the results. It's not an experiment. You're just trying stuff again. This is absolutely essential. So reviewing in this model is as important as doing. Okay, this is how you create endless progress. Yeah. So define now, before you run the experiment, how you're going to measure the results of the experiment. Okay, so really what you've got to think about is three questions. When, what, and how. Very simple. Okay. I will give you an example for myself. Now, I'm probably going to start this experiment right now, but if I was doing it in January, for instance, for January, I would say that the experiment is going to start on January the 1st. Maybe not January the 1st, otherwise I'll get in trouble with my wife. January the 2nd. And actually, no, I probably will make some music on January 1st. I'll just get up really early. The thing is, with the kids and living in the middle of the countryside, it's not like I'm going to be going out partying and, I don't drink or do anything like that anymore. So, it's just everything's always, I can get up whenever. I don't have headaches and things like that anymore. I don't, pray. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. So yeah, I'll be fine. So from January the 1st to January the 28th, yeah, I'm going to report on it on January the 28th. So it's going to start on January the 1st. I'm going to report on it January the 28th. So right now, decide when your test is going to start and end. It's absolutely essential that you define that. Okay? So that's the when. What? How are you actually going to measure something that can be kind of inherently difficult to measure, something that it feels subjective? You can just choose to make it less subjective, right? So for instance, there's a number of different options in the what and the how. Okay, so it's almost like the what and the how are kind of similar. So in my case, the what could be something about how I've forgotten to because I did actually write this down, but I seem to have imported an earlier version where I didn't write it down. So I'm having to I'm having to remember what I wrote down. So the what is I want to create more of a contrast in my music by using heavy beats, yeah, and putting the floaty stuff on top, essentially. Okay, so I can define the what as being, well, I can talk about, because I think one of the things that I'm finding is that my engagement in the process, because my music is quite static, is lower than it could be. Yeah, I think I need to express that journey, yeah, from problem to, yeah, I think I need to do that. So that's something I'm not doing. So I can define the what as being my engagement in the process. So here's an example of how I would do that. Okay. So out of 28 live streams, so January the 1st to the 28th, if I bookmark, so bookmarking is something we do in the Automatic Music Machine, with splurges. So we just splurge out ideas, and then we wait a bit, and then we listen, and we bookmark particular splurges, the ones that we might want to work on in the future. Okay, so if you don't know what the Automatic Music Machine is, or splurging or anything, basically you come up with an idea and you listen later, a few days, a week later, and you just bookmark the ones which you might want to work on in the future. Those are the ones which you like, so to speak. Okay, so out of 28 live streams, if I bookmark at least 50%, yeah, that is me focusing on whether I like what I'm doing, okay? I could also talk about my engagement in the process. Sorry, so that first one was the result, yeah? Me talking about the result. I could also focus on my engagement in the process. So if in January, my average addiction score is up by 2 points from December, right? So what we also do, and this is more in Mastery, which is a follow-on program from the Automatic Music Machine, is that we actually give ourselves an addiction score after our splurging. So how addicted am I to, like how excited, how engaged am I in the process of making it, right? So I give myself a score out of 10. Yeah, and if my addiction score is up by 2 points, yeah, then my belief has been confirmed. Yeah, or if I bookmark at least 50%, then my belief has been confirmed. Yeah. So what you need to do is actually define what it is you're measuring and how you will know whether the results of the test, which way the results of the test have gone. Okay. Does that make sense? Brilliant. So do that right now. How are you going to, well, first of all, when is the experiment going to start and when is it going to end? Absolutely essential. Number 2, what are you going to measure and how are you going to measure it? Yeah. So think about that right now and post in the chat when you're done. And often this is about making something that's inherently, supposedly anyway, subjective, more objective, simply by measuring it yourself. So you can measure your own internal state. It's imperfect, but then so is supposedly objective measurements. So just reflecting on your new one, Laura, that's great. That's a great one. If I do more splurges and start with a different instrument within my template, I think it will trigger me to write more creatively. Great. Okay. Okay, so Robin, well done for doing this, but if I time it before and after, and if it's 10% faster to get in sync after 10 daily practice sessions, then it's a success. Right, so you're not you're not being scientific, yeah, in that, and it's totally understandable. You're not doing anything wrong, but basically, it's a success either way, right? So it's not like. It's actually really important to think about this as, well, then my belief has been confirmed. My hypothesis has been confirmed. Or it's a success. It's a success if that doesn't work as well, because you've got more information. And I know this might seem like, you just, but it's really important that you do this, because by doing it like this, it's like it helps you to actually clearly design the next experiment. If you view, I believe that this will happen, and if it doesn't, I have failed, that shuts you down progressively over time, and you stop experimenting. Okay? So I will start it on this day, and I'll start it. I will start the experiment on January the 1st. I will finish the experiment on January the 28th. If it's 10% faster to get in sync, then my belief has been confirmed. Yeah. If not, then the hypothesis has been disconfirmed, and I need to think of another one, right? Okay, any other experiments? Post in the chat. Dermot, count the number of rhythms I make per week based on emulating tracks I love and rate my satisfaction with my rhythms out of 10, 1 per week. Okay, so you're going to rate your satisfaction. You've also got to define how many have to reach what score in order for your belief to have been confirmed. Yeah, so you've actually come up with a method, but you've not come up with okay, so this means that my hypothesis or my belief has been confirmed. Yeah. So once again, Tom, if I can incorporate one of the plugin techniques within 2 or more of my tracks, then I would have found a new automation technique to progress between states. Okay, so that's an interesting one, Tom. You will have done. I mean, you will have done that whether you do that or not. Does that make sense? Whether you incorporate them or not, you will have found one. They will be ones. Yeah. So you want to define it in a different way. It's almost like, how would I describe it? I think you're focusing on maybe there's another. It's hard for me to describe. I'd have to have a conversation with you. In fact, we've got a call tomorrow, haven't we, in the mastery? So we can talk about this tomorrow, right? So it's like you're defining the results in a way which I think that there's a better way of defining the results. So let's talk about that tomorrow. Julien, measure the number of correction sessions on the melodies of my tracks in a discover state. Okay, so that's what you're going to measure. How many is going to be the point at which you say, okay, so that has confirmed or disconfirmed my belief. Again, you don't only say what you're going to measure, you say how you're going to measure it. In other words, how is the... No, actually, sorry. You don't only define how you're going to measure it, you define what it is that will be a confirmation or disconfirmation of the belief. Yes? Kian, how would you measure if an arrangement feels more organic? So, again, this is one of those subjective things that you're making more objective. Because, I mean, you do measure it anyway. I mean, the fact that you said it needs to feel more organic means there is a measure there. Yeah? It's just that you haven't defined it. So what you could do when you listen back is you could give each track an organic score. What I might also do, like, is it like an organic score? Yeah, I guess so. You could call it that. You could call it an organic score. What I might do as well, Kian, is listen to the music that you've already made that you're saying isn't organic and give that an organic score out of 10. Yeah, so all right, so here's 10 tracks I've made. The average organic score of those 10 tracks that I've already made before the test is 4. Yeah. And then when you listen back to the new music, do the same thing. And if, in the terms of this experiment, you say, if the music I make after this experiment has raised the average organic score by 2, then it's a success. Now, I know this seems like we're kind of we're really sort of making it very numbersy, but the thing is, it actually clarifies, it allows you to sort of make some kind of judgment, which isn't just how I feel in the moment, right? It's like, because you've already said it needs to be more organic, so there is a measure there of some kind, and you're just making it more conscious, you're making it more real in a sense, yeah? Okay, Stephen. I will do a theme and variations discover at the start and end of the 2-month ideas. I will note and record my engagement, addiction, overwhelm while writing the pieces and compare the outcome. Okay, so in that and compare the outcome, I want you, Stephen, to actually be very specific about at what point has your belief been confirmed or disconfirmed. Yeah, just comparing the outcome. Yeah, I mean, you could say if each of those things, engagement and addiction and overwhelm, have been improved by 1 point, then my belief has been confirmed. Or you could use a different measure. Yeah? But I actually want you to be very specific about the measure. Yeah. Dermot. I can say my satisfaction is 3 at the moment, and if it goes up to at least an average of 5 across the month, then not it has worked, then my belief has been confirmed. Yeah. I know it's like I'm being about it. I'm being really, you've not used quite the right word. I know I've done that. I'm doing that, Dermot, but the words that we use to sort of describe it, because it's very neutral to say, okay, it's confirmed my my hypothesis. Whereas if you say it didn't work, yeah, it's a different thing. All right, so I have to run off to a meeting now. So this is how you would run your year. Okay, you would create an experiment. So we've been focused on the music specifically, but you can create similar experiments in your in the money section. So in other words, what you're doing in order to attract fans, making money from music, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you do. All of that area, the business side of things, setting things up in your business. You can create similar experiments. That's actually easier to do in many ways, yeah, than the music, which tends to be more subjective. Okay, and you can also set up experiments in terms of your what we call mindset, which is time. Whether you're finishing music, that's kind of a mindset thing. Very much, it's about psychology. Right, so you can set 3 experiments a month. I mean, you could actually do them shorter if you wanted. You could do them weekly, but 3 experiments a month also works. If they are over the month, they want to be kind of broader experiments. Yeah, and you do it like this. You go through this endless experiment engine process, and it's really important that you define it in the ways that I've been defining it, that you actually set boundaries upon the experiment. You don't say it's failed or it's succeeded. You just say this has been confirmed or hasn't been confirmed. And then the next month you make another one based upon, obviously, the data you've got. I mean, you could address another issue, or you could, try something else for the issue that you're currently addressing. Okay, so that's the endless experiment engine. Of course, there's a lot more nuance to it, but we've only got an hour today, and this will give you a much more effective way of making progress in 2022. I can guarantee you that when you use this process. So finally, next steps. Do the scorecard if you haven't yet done it. That will help you think about these different areas: music, money, and mindset. Links are in the description. I hope they are anyway. If they're not, come back and they will be there. Next week, I'm going to do another workshop called The Artist's Way, or something similar, where we really zero in on the difference between art and craft. And how, that the relationship between the two. If you are not sure about this distinction and you're not sure what you want to be, because as I said, there's nothing wrong with being a craftist. I'm definitely in this, Make Music Your Life is more focused on helping artists become artists, because I think there's a huge gap there. There's an absolute yawning chasm of nothingness. I'm not saying there is nothing else, but there's very little for artists who want to be artists. It's all, not all, but 99.9% about the craft. So Make Music Your Life is going to be, and in fact has been, I just haven't realized it has been, focused on creating artists who use craft to serve the music, not who hide behind craft to destroy the music. Not destroy the music, but destroy the art. Yeah. So if you're unsure about this distinction, if you're wondering where you're at right now, if you're thinking, well, I don't know, maybe I do want to be more of a craftist than an artist, which is absolutely fine. Well, then this Artist Way workshop is definitely for you. I haven't made an actual thingy, what they're called, event, but I will send an email about it, and just subscribe and remind, and also click the like button if you've got value out of this endless experiment engine. And I will see you next week, same time, same place. So until then, onwards and upwards.